Zelensky was asked to leave the White House. Then he appeared on Fox News and said he thinks he can still salvage his relationship with President Trump, which is like Justin Baldoni saying, "I'd love to work with Blake again."
Blake Lively just lost it after the SNL host completely wrecked her right in front of millions. Now, you might be wondering, who has such a deep grudge against this seemingly picture-perfect Hollywood couple? Oh, buckle up, because it's none other than Scarlett Johansson's own husband. That's right, Scarlett, as in Ryan Reynolds' ex-wife. You can already see where this is going. It all went down during SNL's massive 50th anniversary special in February 2025. The night was meant to be a tribute to 5 decades of legendary comedy, a historic celebration of the greatest moments in the show's history.
Just 2 weeks after Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were at SNL 50, and Ryan Reynolds participated in one of the bits.
Well, hey, Ryan Reynolds. Hi. Hey. Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
The show poked fun at the ongoing legal feud between Lively and Justin Baldoni. So over the weekend, Colin Jost, who by the way is married to Scarlett Johansson, Ryan Reynolds' ex-wife, referenced the ongoing legal drama between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, and you just have to watch.
Zelensky was asked to leave the White House. Then he appeared on Fox News and said he thinks he can still salvage his relationship with President Trump, which is like Justin Baldoni saying, "I'd love to work with Blake again."
So yeah, this isn't going away anytime soon. The couple also was not in attendance at the Oscars over the weekend, which was somewhat surprising because while neither of them were in anything that was nominated, they were both in big movies last year. But they weren't there, and they likely will say they weren't there because they didn't want to face any of the backlash from this ongoing legal battle.
But instead, it turned into an all-out public execution of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' reputations, right there on live television. And let's be real, this takedown had been brewing for months. These two strolled onto that stage like they were still Hollywood royalty, as if the world hadn't just watched them crash and burn over that mind-blowing $400 million lawsuit that's had everyone talking. At first, everything seemed fine, until Tina Fey and Amy Poehler tossed Ryan the softest question imaginable. It wasn't even a setup. They literally handed him the easiest pass in the world. "How's it going, Ryan?" A question anyone could answer without getting into trouble. But instead of just smiling and moving on like a normal person, Ryan smirked and let loose with the dumbest, most self-destructive response in history.
Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
It surprised me. I'm unaware of anybody, frankly, whose wife has been sexually harassed and has made jokes about that type of situation.
Justin, if I'm not mistaken, is on vacation right now with his kids in Hawaii. Is he still there? Do you speak to him?
I do speak to him. I speak to him often. I wouldn't call it vacation. I don't think anybody who's been accused of heinous, arguably what are crimes, is on vacation. I think that he is trying to gather with his family and get some semblance of peace.
And just like that, the entire energy in the room shifted. The laughter that followed? Oh, that wasn't real laughter. Not even close. That was the awkward, secondhand embarrassment kind. The kind where people are caught between forcing a chuckle or pretending they didn't hear what just happened. The tension was palpable. Steven Spielberg? He looked like he was plotting his escape route. Amy Poehler? She gave the quickest blink and you'll miss it wince. And Blake Lively? Silent, completely frozen in place. Her head turned toward Ryan so slowly, her gaze sharp enough to shatter glass. Because she knew. Oh, she knew! The second that idiotic joke slipped out of his mouth, every single person in that audience had one thought on their mind. The lawsuit. For months, Ryan and Blake had been ghosts, avoiding cameras like the plague ever since Justin Baldoni's lawsuit hit them like a nuclear bomb. No red carpets, no interviews, absolute radio silence. And yet, instead of keeping a low profile, focusing on damage control, or at the very least, not reminding the world they still exist, what did they do? They waltzed onto SNL's stage like Hollywood royalty, acting like their charm alone could erase a $400 million disaster from public memory. The delusion. But oh, that little fantasy? It vanished in an instant. The smokescreen? Gone. And what was left? The brutal reality of their crumbling reputation playing out on live TV for millions to see. Because here's the thing. Hollywood had already moved on. The industry was done pretending these two were some kind of untouchable golden couple. Their fairy tale had expired, and the second they strutted into that SNL studio, the audience knew exactly what was coming. Blake had spent months trying to rewrite history, crafting the most Oscar-worthy victim narrative Hollywood had ever seen. She pushed every angle, played every sympathy card, desperate to shift the public's focus away from the lawsuit. But Ryan was about to blow it all to pieces. And in the most humiliating way possible, on live television. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get worse, oh, they did. Because while Ryan was out there single-handedly torching his own career in real time, SNL had something even more savage in store for Blake. Enter Colin Jost. This wasn't just any joke. Oh no. This was Scarlett Johansson's husband stepping onto that stage, a man with every reason to despise Ryan Reynolds, and he was about to deliver the ultimate revenge in front of millions. And his execution? Cold. Precise. Absolutely lethal. That joke? A death blow. Because let's break it down. This wasn't just a shot at Baldoni. This was about Blake. She wasn't just caught in the crossfire. She was the punchline. And it wasn't just a joke. It was a confirmation. A statement. The final nail in the coffin. Hollywood wants nothing to do with her. And you could feel it in the room. For a split second, the audience froze. That eerie, collective pause before the laugh? That was everyone processing the brutality of what they had just witnessed. Even Colin Jost knew exactly what he had just unleashed. He couldn't even finish the sentence before cracking up, because he knew. This wasn't just a joke, it was a nuclear bomb, and the second it left his mouth, it detonated. That moment? That was it. That was the second Blake Lively's fate was sealed. Ryan thought he was being clever. He thought he was channeling that Deadpool brand of humor. But in reality, all he did was hand-deliver the setup for Colin Jost to land the most brutal, career-ending punchline of the night. And just like that, Blake Lively's entire PR empire came crashing down. Because this wasn't some lighthearted roast, this was a statement, a direct message from Hollywood itself. They don't respect her. They don't take her seriously. And they're done buying into her victim act. In one spectacularly disastrous night, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively went from Hollywood's golden couple to industry-wide punchlines. And not just for a week, not for a month, for years. Blake Lively had spent her career selling the world a perfectly packaged fantasy, glossy, airbrushed, every detail carefully curated. She was the Hollywood sweetheart, the effortlessly charming A-lister, the feminist darling who could do no wrong. Every journalist ate out of her hand. Every red carpet look was a masterpiece. Every interview dripped with that polished, calculated humility. But then, Iki Bin Yerma Dirt hit.
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds just dared to show their face in public for the first time in 4 months at SNL 50 and made a joke about their court case with Justin Baldoni on live national television in front of the whole room. You will not believe what they said. Here's them on the red carpet. Ryan looks like guilt is eating him alive. Blake looks wonderful. She even had time to put on some of her florals. I wonder if she put someone in the basement at this event too, allegedly. So Amy Poehler and Tina Fey, who were hosting the event, were doing a Q&A with all the celebrities in the audience, and for some reason, Ryan Reynolds thinks people want him there. And they were like, "Oh, I'm shocked to see you here, Ryan Reynolds." And he makes a joke like, "Wait, what have you heard? What do you mean?"
Who else? Who else has a question?
I have a question.
Oh, hey, Ryan Reynolds.
Hi.
Hey. Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard? Yeah, okay.
Anya Taylor-Joy's like, what the fuck? This man's reaction is amazing. He's like, what are you doing here? This also comes in light of Justin Baldoni's first public appearance since the court case, but he kept it classy and didn't make any jokes about this court case with very sensitive, touchy subjects in it because he has class. And this is just so surprising to me because Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds just asked the judge for an extension on Blake's amended lawsuit to respond to Justin's lawsuit because he completely destroyed her in it, and they denied them that extension. So they have to turn that lawsuit in on Tuesday, and they're spending their Sunday night at SNL 50. Like, don't you got some homework to do, Blake? And I'll definitely update you when her amended lawsuit comes out and she tries to win public opinion back. And so you stay in the know for all updates on this court case. Make sure to hit follow on all apps in case of a ban, because in Patty we trust.
And reality? It didn't just knock, it bulldozed straight through that PR fairy tale. Because guess what? Hollywood finally got tired of pretending. But let's be honest, Ryan Reynolds doesn't know when to shut up. If he had even a shred of self-awareness, he would have let the joke die then and there. But no, he doubled down. Because this is the same man who thought it was a brilliant idea to use Deadpool and Wolverine to take cheap shots at Justin Baldoni when the lawsuit first dropped. Which brings us to Ryan's first PR disaster, the Deadpool meltdown.
All charges, Your Honor.
Baldoni's legal team thinks so, saying the character is a deliberate attempt to mock, harass, intimidate, and bully the star.
Can we just be done?
Ooh, we're just getting started.
E.T. obtained the 5-page demand letter Justin's attorney sent to Marvel and Disney asking that they preserve all relevant documents relating to the development of the character. The evidence linking Baldoni to Nice Pool? Well, there's the man bun, a hairstyle Justin had for years, and references to body shaming, something Blake accuses Justin of doing.
She just had a baby, too, and can't even tell. I don't think you're supposed to say that. That's okay. I identify as a feminist.
Here I am doing my part, trying to be a feminist.
Let's rewind to December 2024, when the lawsuit was still fresh out of the oven. Ryan had every opportunity to handle things like an adult. You know, let his overpaid team of lawyers do their jobs and fight it behind the scenes. But did he do the smart thing? Of course not. Instead, he did the most Ryan Reynolds thing possible. He turned Baldoni into a Deadpool punchline. He created an entire character, Nice Pool, who just so happened to be soft-spoken, over-the-top feminist, and a cringe-worthy male ally with zero real substance. I mean, come on. You don't have to be a genius to see exactly who he was mocking. And just to really hammer it in, he threw in a pregnancy-related jab. Because apparently, in Ryan Reynolds' world, mocking Baldoni's activism on reproductive rights is the height of comedy. Baldoni's team? Oh, they clocked it instantly. They saw right through the act, and so did the public. Because nothing screams mature and responsible Hollywood star like using your $300 million superhero blockbuster to throw a tantrum disguised as satire. And now, months later, Ryan was at it again. Except this time, it wasn't part of a carefully scripted Hollywood production. This was live, in front of millions. And Blake Lively, she was sitting right there. Let's just take a second to appreciate the irony of it all. Blake had spent months weaving the ultimate PR sob story, painting herself as the wronged woman, the brave actress standing up against a manipulative director. She pulled every trick in the book, hired an ex-CIA PR fixer, planted stories, and worked overtime to flip the narrative in her favor. And then, the one person who was supposed to help her keep this charade together, her own husband, got on live TV and turned their entire legal disaster into a joke. When the lawsuit first dropped, everyone started talking. And not just fans or gossip blogs, actual Hollywood insiders. People who had worked with her. People who had to survive being anywhere near her orbit. And suddenly, that carefully controlled Blake Lively brand? It started looking a whole lot different. Then came the real bombshell. Over 50 crew members from It Ends With Us stepped forward. And let's just say, their reviews weren't glowing. Instead of the sweet, lovable leading lady she had spent years pretending to be, they described someone completely different. A controlling, manipulative, power-obsessed nightmare who treated people like nothing more than disposable props in her personal empire. Crew members were literally forbidden from making eye contact with her. Let that sink in for a second. No eye contact. No speaking to her unless absolutely necessary. Imagine being so entitled that you think looking at you is some kind of privilege. This wasn't just A-list behavior. This was dictator-level delusion. And then came the journalists. For years, they had played along, bending over backward to maintain Blake's glossy, picture-perfect narrative. She called the shots, controlled the headlines, and curated her flawless public image with surgical precision. But the second that lawsuit cracked her fairy tale, they weren't so eager to keep propping her up. And that's when Blake truly started to unravel. Enter one of the biggest PR disasters of 2024, the Kirsty Flahaven interview. Now, if you thought Blake Lively was good at faking her way through interviews, this moment proved otherwise. Because in July 2024, during what should have been a harmless run-of-the-mill press tour appearance, Blake's real personality slipped, and the internet never forgot. Kirsty, just being a normal, polite human, congratulated Blake on her pregnancy. A completely standard, harmless remark.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
What about my bump?
You've got two nice ones.
And these...
No controversy, no hidden meaning, just a simple, supportive comment. And Blake? Instead of graciously accepting it, she snapped back with, "Congrats on yours!" One tiny problem. Kirsty Flahaven wasn't pregnant. Even worse, she had publicly spoken about her struggles with infertility. And just like that, Blake Lively managed to create one of the most heartless, tone-deaf, and downright disgusting viral moments of the year. Congrats on your little... This wasn't a slip-up. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was Blake Lively, in real time, choosing to publicly humiliate someone on camera.
So after I posted the interview with Blake Lively that a lot of people have been watching, I got so many questions from people asking why I decided to post that interview now, 8 years later. And the reason for that is that I got contacted by another reporter who told me a story that was a little similar to this one that he had experienced. And then we started talking about comparing notes about this. And then I just felt like, you know what? It's not okay to behave like that. And I think it needs to be called out.
For no reason other than her inflated ego. And the internet? It exploded. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Every platform turned into an all-out Blake Lively hate parade. And this wasn't the usual celebrity backlash. This wasn't just people getting mad over some dumb joke or an old controversial tweet. This was different. This was Blake Lively exposing herself. Her feminist icon status? Revoked. Her America's Sweetheart title? Gone. Her entire career hanging by a thread. Because here's the cold reality about Hollywood. They'll protect you, they'll cover for you, but only as long as you're useful. The second you become a liability, they'll throw you under the bus so fast you won't even see it coming. And Blake Lively, she had just become Hollywood's newest PR disaster. But did she own up to it? Did she apologize? Did she take any accountability? Of course not. Instead, she did exactly what every power-hungry, image-obsessed celebrity does when their world starts falling apart. She ran straight to the crisis PR playbook. Because after months of spiraling, getting obliterated in the media, and realizing that people weren't buying her victim act anymore, she made one last desperate move. She called in the biggest, shadiest, most powerful fixer she could find. Enter Nick Shapiro. And if that name doesn't ring a bell, let me spell it out for you. This isn't just some PR guy. This is a former CIA official. This is a man who worked directly for Obama and Biden. This is the guy who was allegedly involved in covering up the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. And now? He was working for Blake Lively. This is a man whose entire career revolves around controlling media narratives, twisting reality until people don't even know what's real anymore. And Blake Lively? She hired him to clean up her mess. Let's talk about the irony for a second. For months, Blake had been running to every tabloid, every journalist, every media outlet she could find, crying about how Justin Baldoni had hired a PR firm to help his case. She acted like it was the most sinister thing in the world, like it was some villainous power move that proved Baldoni was manipulative and corrupt. And then, she turned around and hired the biggest, most powerful, most ethically questionable PR fixer on the planet. But she wasn't done yet, because what's the next step in the PR disaster control playbook? Buy off the media. And that's exactly what she tried to do. Within weeks of hiring her CIA crisis handler, suddenly, the New York Times starts dropping suspiciously pro-Blake articles. Headlines miraculously pop up about how Blake was winning legal battles, how she was fighting back, and turning the tide. Except, she wasn't. Because in reality, her subpoenas had been denied. Her legal strategy was crumbling. Her case wasn't holding up in court. But none of that mattered. Because her PR machine was out here spinning the headlines, trying to rewrite reality.
I'm just brunette because of the books. Not everyone knows blondes are nicer anyway.
Oh my God! What is that?
Well, I met Blake. I worked with her husband Ryan several years ago, so I met Blake a few times through Ryan on that film.
Got it.
And and thought she seemed nice, and little did I know.
Yeah. Look at the body language experts analyzing this right now. How quickly do you...
Don't touch me.
Chuck has a matching pet monkey with coordinating outfits, and I was like, I would love to be part of the show, but I can't act with a monkey. And then I got a few of them.
Unfortunately for them, Baldoni's team wasn't playing games. They called it out instantly, exposing how the media was being manipulated in real time. They dragged the entire shady operation into the spotlight, and just like that, all those fake PR victories started crumbling. Because at the end of the day, no amount of media spin can erase cold, hard facts. Blake Lively was losing. And Hollywood? Oh, they were taking notes. Because when you go from one of the most beloved actresses in the industry to a full-blown PR disaster, hiring ex-CIA operatives to clean up your mess, people start keeping their distance. And Blake? She was running out of allies. If there was ever a real-life example of karma working overtime, it would be January 2025, the month Ryan Reynolds officially got dragged into the lawsuit. After months of hiding behind his sarcastic one-liners and Deadpool quips, thinking he could just joke his way out of accountability, reality came knocking. And it didn't just knock, it kicked the door down. Because here's the thing, Baldoni wasn't just suing Blake anymore. He was coming for Ryan too. And why? Because the receipts were damning. Turns out, Ryan wasn't just the clueless, supportive husband standing on the sidelines while his wife played the victim. Oh no, he was an active player in the takedown of Justin Baldoni. A secret meeting in March 2024? It happened. And Ryan was right there in the middle of it, sitting at the table with Blake, Sony executives, and top-tier PR manipulators. And he wasn't there to support his wife. He was there to make sure Baldoni was erased from Hollywood. This wasn't about justice. This was about power. And Ryan Reynolds? He was willing to go full scorched earth to get what he wanted. He didn't just suggest that Baldoni should be pushed out. He demanded it. According to Deadline's bombshell, January 2025 report, Ryan's behavior in that secret meeting wasn't just cutthroat. It was described as aggressive and humiliating. Not exactly the fun-loving, Twitter-savvy, Hollywood nice guy he spent years pretending to be. Because when Ryan Reynolds isn't performing for a camera, the real version of him isn't so funny anymore. And the worst part? Sony executives actually listened. Ryan Reynolds was so hell-bent on erasing Baldoni from the project that he pressured Sony into locking him out of his own film. Think about that. Baldoni, the guy who had poured years into It Ends With Us, was suddenly cut out, blindsided, betrayed. And why? to make sure Blake had complete control over the film. Ryan wasn't protecting Blake, he was handing her a loaded weapon. He ensured that she had total dominance over the project, stripping Baldoni of any say in how his own work was handled. And guess what? That power move backfired spectacularly, because by the time January 2025 rolled around, Baldoni wasn't just fighting for his career. He was fighting back, legally, civil extortion, privacy invasion, abuse of power. And guess who was now officially named in the lawsuit? Ryan Reynolds. The same Ryan who had spent years carefully curating his Hollywood nice guy image was now being exposed for what he really was. An industry bully who used his power to sabotage another filmmaker. And Hollywood noticed. Because if there's one thing Hollywood hates more than a scandal, it's a scandal that exposes how the game is really played. And suddenly, Ryan Reynolds wasn't so funny anymore. The industry turned on him. Studios started distancing themselves. The same people who once lined up to sing his praises in interviews, nowhere to be found. Ryan Reynolds, the golden boy of Hollywood, had officially become a PR liability. And Blake, she wasn't doing any better. Because while Ryan was watching his reputation collapse, Blake's own downfall was accelerating at full speed. Studios were quietly backing away. Industry support, vanishing. They weren't Hollywood's golden couple anymore. They were Hollywood's biggest joke. And the stories? They just kept getting worse. Because now, people weren't just talking about her lawsuit, they were talking about everything. Like how former Gossip Girl cast members suddenly came forward with receipts, proving that Blake tried to turn the entire set against Penn Badgley. For years, she pretended they were just co-stars who got along, played the professional act. But behind the scenes, she was actively working to turn the crew against him. And why? Because apparently, he had the audacity to exist. And then came It Ends With Us. Baldoni's version, the one he originally cut, the one he spent years developing alongside Colleen Hoover, scored significantly higher in test screenings than Blake's version. But which one did Sony release? The Blake Lively disaster edit. And, shockingly, audiences hated it. The backlash was immediate, because this was never about making a great film. It was about making a Blake Lively film. And suddenly, the public wasn't confused anymore. They could see exactly what had happened. Blake had forced Justin Baldoni out. Ryan had helped sabotage his career. They thought they could control the industry, rewrite the narrative, and walk away as the winners. But the public turned on them. Blake's subpoenas were denied. Ryan was drowning in legal troubles. And now, the very industry they tried to manipulate was cutting them off. Because if there's one thing Hollywood loves more than a rising star, it's a spectacular downfall. And Blake and Ryan, they were officially out. The internet never forgets. Ryan thought he could joke his way through this. Blake thought she could outmaneuver Hollywood. Now, they're both drowning in the mess they created. And what made it even worse? Saturday Night Live played a huge role in their downfall. Because that night, when Colin Jost roasted them in front of millions, Hollywood took that as a green light to finally do what they had been waiting to do for months. Walk away from Blake and Ryan for good. Their reputation is beyond repair. And Hollywood has moved on. And as for Justin Baldoni, he may have lost control of a movie, but in the long run, he won the war. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one.